I'm knowing nothing.
Nothing. Nobody ever uses the scanner.
Well, don't be upset. But I decided to blow up the Mazda CX-50 to make it as a CX-90. It's nice, right?
Last week we were taking a look at a new Mazda CX-50, an all-new vehicle that Mazda developed for people that were a little bit more outdoorsy. But this is on the other end of the spectrum because Mazda says it is sculpted based on dignified beauty. I'm Nile.
I'm Jen.
And this is the 2024 Mazda CX-90 Signature. First off, you got to admit though that the styling on this is, I think it's bold. What do you think, Jen?
I love the color.
The color is nice. This is the Artisan Red Metallic paint. And Mazda says that they made it specifically to accentuate the lines and design language on the CX-90. How beautiful is that? So what do you think about the front end? What do you think about the design overall? Because obviously we made the joke that you think at least it looks just like every other vehicle Mazda makes.
I personally love big SUVs, so I do like the fact that it's more bulky a bit.
I would say that this would be competing directly with a vehicle like the Kia Telluride or the Buick Enclave Avenir. This comes in about $65,000 Canadian. Whereas the Kia Telluride is about $2,000 less, and then the Buick is like $5,000 more. So you're kind of right in the middle with this, but I think you're getting pretty good value overall. And the big selling factor of this specific vehicle is the 3.3 liter e-Sky Active inline-6 engine. It is the biggest engine Mazda has ever produced. Inline-6 means that it's nice and smooth and very BMW-esque, and it has a turbo with the mild hybrid system. I specifically chose the mild hybrid over the plug-in, but we're going to be talking about on the road test that we have found some hiccups when it comes to that system.
Unlike last week, the CX-50 was its own model, but this CX-90 is replacing the CX-9. It's 27 millimeter longer, 25 millimeter wider, 22 millimeter taller. The wheelbase is 190 millimeter longer, and the interior space improves across the 3 rows.
That's right. The wheelbase, I think, is the big factor here. Longer wheelbase allows for a smoother ride, but again, we'll be talking about that when we take it on a road test. But I think, Jen, we should get in the car. We'll talk about the interior as we take it on the road test. You're going to be driving first. I'm going to be sitting in the second row. We have a little guest back there, so why don't we hit the road and talk about the 2024 Mazda CX-90 Signature Mild Hybrid.
All right, so I'm driving the Mazda CX-90 right now. I feel the suspension is a bit harder. Is it just me?
Yeah, it's quite firm, especially for well, it's not even firm. It doesn't feel very compliant. So when you hit the bumps, you feel it a lot. I think it should be a lot smoother.
Yeah. For
a vehicle of this size, of this wheelbase, like the CX-90 passing us right, or CX-9 passing us right now. I think that was a smoother ride than this has been because we're just bouncing around.
Yeah, I feel that it's like I feel like a bouncy castle a bit, like going like this a bit in the front. And I know you didn't want me to say anything because I complain about this CX-50 for the seat, but I feel that it's really, really firm. Like the back, I know there's lumbar support, so I will try to kind of, make it better, but I just feel it's very firm. Personally, the steering wheel, I do like it. I do like that it's two-tone, but I also feel that it's not plush. So I feel, as a woman, if I'm driving for a long distance, it may hurt my fingies. I guess we don't have the same problem, How is it in the back?
So second row here is quite nice. One nice thing that you get on this that you wouldn't get on, say, a $185,000 Cadillac Escalade is ventilated seats. So back here you've got heated and ventilated seats, plus the tri-zone climate, 2 USB-C ports. But I say one area that this does lack in is actual ventilation. There's 2 vents here in the center, nothing else for the second row. There's nothing on the headliner, nothing in the B-pillars, and I just find that it would be a little bit better if we had that because essentially it's just kind of stuffy back here.
there's like a, did you feel a little lag when I pressed the pedal? I mean, it's not a racing car, but there's like there's an issue with shifting, it seems, or is it me?
Well, the 8-speed transmission doesn't quite seem to know where it needs to be. And again, this is essentially the first 8-speed transmission that Mazda's made, plus the largest engine they've ever made, right? That 3.3-liter engine with premium fuel is pumping out 340 horsepower, which is quite a bit, but it doesn't really feel like it, right? Like it really is one of the most powerful engines in the mid-sized consumer segment.
Yeah.
The mild hybrid, we'll talk about it when I take it on the road. But yeah, I mean, just like 369 pound-feet of torque as well. Pretty decent numbers overall, but just not quite, like it doesn't feel that way. Maybe it's just because the vehicle's so heavy, so big.
Maybe. But if it was not of that, though, I mean, when you go to a constant speed, like I'm going 90 right now, I feel it's really, like, I mean, right now there's no potholes, nothing. It's very smooth. I feel that. I'm sitting high up, right? Good visibility. I do like that. I do.
All right, now we've swapped positions here. We're coming up to a place that the car's supposed to stop. Let's see. Not quite. I want to talk about the iStop system, but we will in a little bit. But let's take it just on a little highway here first. But before I do, let's see how the third row is back there in jail. Jen, how you doing back there?
Hi. It's a bit bouncy in the back, but there's, oh my God, I'm sorry. It's a bit, okay.
How is it?
Oh my God. Oh, bouncy castle, like electric boogaloo here. There's a lot of space, a positive way, there's a lot of space in the back, so I have quite a bit of space for sitting comfortably. It's very bouncy. Like right now it's smooth because I think it's smooth, the road, but yeah, it's bouncy in the back.
Yeah, and that's what we've been experiencing throughout with the suspension on here. There's something weird with it. It's just a little wonky. We've noticed too that the rear seats rattle if there's nobody sitting back there. So having a passenger back there, it actually kind of flattens out the rattling, but then you're bouncing around. So third row seats, clearly, as they are in most 3-row SUVs, are best for smaller people, children, things like that. You do have a set of USB-C ports back there, which is okay, but there's really no airflow. There's like 2 vents in the D pillars, and that's essentially all the airflow. Maybe a little bit underneath the seat to give you something up your feet area, but aside from that, not too much flow for the air, just like we were discussing in the second row. Bit of a bummer there. I think Mazda could have focused a little bit more. If you're making a 3-row SUV, you gotta really make it excel. You want it to shine as a 3-row SUV. Almost feels like more of an afterthought when it comes to this vehicle. But we'll take a little bit of a drive through the industrial areas here of St. Thomas just to see how the vehicle performs. But the one thing that I've noticed is really the mild hybrid system on here. I think that's my big disappointment for this vehicle. I had booked it specifically because I don't have a plug-in at home to be able to use the plug-in hybrid system. Our EV Duty is still waiting to be installed, so I figured it'd be better just to take the mild hybrid. But I find that it's not smooth. Yeah, when you're coming to a stop, as you're slowing down, the car will turn off the engine and you'll coast and save a little bit of fuel. But what I find is it shuts off as you're coming to the stop, and then you stop the vehicle, then the engine turns back on. Kind of defeats the purpose of having a stop-start system. And then when it doesn't shut off as you're coming to a stop, but it does when you have made that stop, now there's a lag for it to start back up. I find that, I'll be at a stop sign, engine stops, I'll take my foot off the brake, and there's just too much of a delay for everything to start back up before I can get going again. So a couple little growing pains when it comes to this. It is a new vehicle for Mazda, so as you can kind of expect with any first model year, there's always going to be some hiccups. But I do find that there's a little bit more in the hiccup department than I would have liked to have seen, especially from Mazda, a brand that over the last little while has been trying to elevate themselves as a premium brand. And I gotta say, despite the beautiful interior, Windsor Tan with the, they call it ultra, what is it? The Ultra Luxe suede inserts on the dash and the door cards, the black headliner, everything, all the features, you come fully loaded on this. It certainly looks the part, just doesn't perform the part. And I don't think I would spend $65,000 on this vehicle. It's like 63 when you factor in delivery and everything before taxes. I think it's a lot of money for a vehicle that's almost there, but just not quite as refined as we've come to expect from Mazda. What do you think, Jen?
I think in the back, I think that, like I said, I think what's missing also in the back is a light. There's no light. Like, there's a light, but I cannot push it, or like, yes, you can control the light in the front, but I cannot control it in the back, so it can be a bit dark, I think. But there's cup holders, and there's also USB too, so I guess it's good for kids in the back.
Yeah, at least they'll be able to charge their devices while they're back there. But for the most part, the rest of the vehicle, there's great stuff. Like I mentioned, the interior looks fantastic. Mazda's using a slightly different 360 camera setup. You can have a normal 360 camera, but they have an enhanced version called see-through view, which essentially uses the front cameras and stitches in the side cameras very well. So if you're coming around a curve or a curb like we are here, for example, you want to make sure that you're not going to run over anything that might be in the way that you can't necessarily see around the vehicle. It actually does a really good job, and the way they've stitched the cameras up is almost like perfect. So there's usually a bit of a gap in how the cameras actually line up on those 360 cameras, but the see-through view mode works extremely well on this vehicle. And really, that's the standout feature. Aside from that, we finally get a fully digital gauge cluster from Mazda. That's nice to see, but we're getting the same old infotainment that we've had for a little while now. And yeah, like the seats are kind of on the firm side, but that's at least how I find all cars are these days. Nobody makes a nice plush seat anymore, but I think a couple places that Mazda will need to improve will be with the mild hybrid system, and really to look at that third row. I remember the CX-9, I think it was like when the 2020 model came out, they actually improved the third row seating area. You got a little bit more legroom and stuff, so it'd be nice to see some improvements for this vehicle too, because it's almost there. Like it's a really good effort, really nice vehicle. Love the color. Artisan Red Metallic looks fantastic. In our B-roll, it looks very dark, but it's actually a rich color. Just the lighting wasn't working with us on the day that we filmed, and yeah, it's just, there's a lot of good with it, but I just feel that the things that need to be tweaked are kind of big. Like they're big ticket items to have issues with the stop-start system and the overall, driving that suspension. Kind of disappointing on my part. Well, that'll pretty much do it for us here on Test Drive. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until next time, take care.
Bye.